have been the biggest consumer of the Saw franchise since it started. Now, mind you, this is 10 movies within a span of 20 years. Last year was the 10th installment of Saw, and a lot of you guys don't like this movie, okay? Regardless of its, if it's the original, as it progresses. I did notice over the years that a lot of people dropped off by the third installment. After the third movie, quite a few of you were done. A lot of, like, I've seen so many discussions within the Saw franchise, whether it's jokings, whether it's, memes, whether it's, for shits and giggles. But I did notice that the trend is the drop off, and where people just like gave up after the third one. And they should really include a period piece inside of the horror genre, because it goes back in time and in time and in time. So it's like a story within a story, which these types of movies I prefer, because you're invested. You get hooked on all of these characters and what these characters portray. Now, for a lot of you that don't realize, because a lot of you see this as a slasher movie, right? A lot of you guys see this as the modern day of the 70s, where a lot of movies in the 70s and 80s were more so slasher than actual horror, actually being terrified in a sense of a psychological thriller, more so than, the boogeyman's gonna come get you type of deal. So over time of horror films, even to present day, a lot of the movies are now considered like weird, disturbing, gruesome in a, I guess you could say gruesome in a, sexual violent type of way, more so like icky, I guess is more so the term, I guess you want to call it. A lot of these movies I am not able to get through. And for a lot of you guys, especially those of you who know my history, a lot of you guys are like, I can't believe you're into Saw because of everything you've gone through. Like, there's no possible way that you can get through this without being phased. There's no possible way, considering all of the trauma, all of the chaos that ensued within just in your childhood alone, right? So a lot of people just, they don't get it. So to put it in simplest terms, for those of you who are like, I can't believe you're into this. To put it in simplest terms, I rewatch Saw when I am in my most defeated. Let me explain. So a lot of you guys are like, wait a minute, what? Let me explain. Had it not been for the Saw franchise, if you go through each movie, right, the main basis of John Kramer, the main basis of Jigsaw, the main basis of Billy the Puppet, right, the main basis is appreciate your life while you can. Don't be a screw up. Don't add to the problem. Don't be a predator, don't be a perpetrator, don't become the villain. Appreciate what you have while you have it. That is the utmost basis of the entire franchise, okay? Now, mind you, in the depths of my addiction, from 2003 all the way up until 2010, right? In the depths of all of my addictions, I was always not so much terrified, but I was always so much, it's always in the back of my mind that there is someone that could reenact what he does, right? There is always someone that could try to perpetuate this, especially to those of us with addiction. Because let's be fair, people with addiction do not appreciate life. I know that sounds cold and I know that sounds harsh, but coming from someone who has recovered from immense amounts of addictions, which isn't easy to do, to just get through one, okay? But to be recovered from every single thing, where it's in the back of my mind, where I can actually enjoy these movies now for what they are, for what the actual meaning behind it is. And I'm pretty sure that by the end of this video, you guys are going to be like, I never thought it like that. That's because I don't view things the way everybody else does. I know that I'm going to be repeating myself a lot, and I have been in the past with my channel, that I do not see things the way everybody else does. I look at things a totally different way, which now you will get as the videos to come in the near future. Why so many people ask, I want your opinion. We need your opinion, because I don't see things through the lens of everybody else, where everybody else basically either has the same take or they're not looking outside the box, or they're not looking at what's really there. So there you go. Spiral. Okay. Now, I know for a lot of you, it's controversial for these, last two that I'm going to mention. But Spiral, while I did appreciate the idea behind Chris Rock being the producer, executive producer, possibly director, there's a little bit of back and forth with that, so who knows, right? People can just speculate, and there's only so much we can do as the audience, except judge the masterpiece and critique what the final product is as far as the movie goes. So while I did appreciate that it was a Saw copycat, so to speak, and the traps were, while they were a bit, I don't know, a lot of people felt like a lot of the traps in Spiral were very cringe. They were like, they're you can easily get out of these, and these weren't gruesome enough. Now, mind you, if you remember the train, if you remember the train trap that I like to call it, I'm not going to call it what it really was. But just this description of a subway alone, your mind can just unravel of what this actually was if you've never seen this movie, okay? And I thought that, to be fair, when I saw the trailer and I saw the train trap, the subway train, that's what caught my eye. That's what wanted me to see, okay, where is this going? Like, what crazy idea that you decide to do these traps out in public, right? Now, mind you, we're going to get into that later on in the video with the Saw 3D aspect, because there was a trap, obviously, in the beginning that was public. So I did like the reminiscence of all of the Saw movies as how he depicted everything. As far as traps, I don't know if you guys picked up on that as far as Spiral, but even though to a lot of the fans, a lot of people were turned off by the fact that it was, to catch a cop, not necessarily to catch Jigsaw, to catch the villain, so to speak. It was more, cop and PI, and a lot of people are against the police, so I guess you could say that that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people are turned off by Saw, especially once you get past 3 all the way down to 10. So I can understand why a lot of people were turned off, because it's good cop, bad cop type of mentality, and a lot of people really get into their feelings, let's be honest. And I don't know when that started. It started like clearly years ago. Like this started, I want to say like 10, 15 years ago, where people just nitpicked every little part of the movie instead of just enjoying the movie anymore. People acted like they were critics themselves. People acted like they were, actors, and people acted like they were in the industry and would rather just bitch and moan. But to me, like, if you're like a film student and you had actual passion for this, obviously you're the exception, and I'm not gonna grill you, but I'm referring to the rest of the audience of the Saw franchise. And I did appreciate his picking from each of the movies in reminiscence of basically all of them put into one, because let's be real, we thought this was it. Like, let's be fair, we thought Saw 3D was it because it says the final chapter, right? And we thought Spiral was it. That's what we assumed. We didn't know that it was going to keep continuing, because a lot of the times you're left in limbo. Once you see the movie, that's it. You're left in limbo. Yes, you can like try to dig up information and be, sleuths as far as being a fanatic, but there's only so much information you're going to be given, and then a lot of the times, a lot of things are wiped away from the internet for whatever reason. I can't get into that. So I felt like, for me, this would be number 10. Simply because while I did appreciate the train, the gruesomeness of the train trap, that, to be fair, I wouldn't be able to get through. And I will explain that in my tiers for the traps. Okay, I will explain that in my top 10. But I mean, it was just typical, father-son dysfunction, and trying to mend that and get that back together, as far as, Samuel L. Jackson's character and Chris Rock's character. But at the end of the day, like, there's no winning when it comes to Saw. That's kind of the whole point. Like, you're a bad person, so you get what you deserve type of deals. I don't know why people get hung up on rooting for people that are horrible in society to get out of these things. And we'll get into that later on, obviously, with certain individuals, because a lot of people felt like that Jigsaw isn't fair in a lot of cases. And to be fair, it's not always Jigsaw, right? It's other players in the game. So it's not always just him. So I just, as far as like visuals, as far as like production, I just felt like it could have been a bit better, even though it was like a, what do you call it? Not necessarily like a prequel, but more so like a off brand, if you will, kind of like a side story of Jigsaw. It's just like an added piece that they needed, but they wanted something different. And I guess you could say that a lot of the directors and whatnot needed a break, which after 10 years of 10 years in aspects of taking a break, because there are a lot of gaps and a lot of things just, it feels like it doesn't add up as you progress. And I feel like a lot of people just, they don't really want to get into it, but then they, listen to someone like myself or listen to someone that is really into these movies, that the way we would describe them and the way that we get into them, then they're like, maybe I should give it a shot, Number 9, Jigsaw. Okay, now, I was excited, I'll be honest. I was excited when this came out. This came out 2017, 18-ish. Forgive me if I'm iffy on the years. But for me, Jigsaw... I mean, I felt like it was, even though it was a lot of years after the entire series, like, basically collapsed as far as like a book goes, and then it was the final chapter, right? But I felt like the production was rushed. I felt like they just wanted to get a movie in. They just wanted to make the fans somewhat happy, just to like surprise people. And I'll give you this, a lot of the traps were pretty violent, pretty gruesome, very creative, I must say. Very, very creative. I'll give them that. A lot of people didn't appreciate most of these traps. It's like I've listened to so many people just rant on and on and on about how a lot of these traps were lazy, a lot of these traps. But let's be fair. In laziness, a lot of people could not do these traps. Let's be honest, a lot of people could not do this. The level of anxiety when it becomes to life and death, not only that, a lot of people crack under pressure. A lot of people fall under pressure. They can't thrive. It's very rare people can just get the urge to just hurry up and fucking do it. It's very rare that people can do this. So while I did appreciate that, I think this is the last, if I'm not mistaken, this is the last movie that we see Billy, the puppet. Because, like, there are some movies where he's in it. It's just him having the card saying, "Play me," and it's like he's a cameo in a feature. And I understand he's a puppet, but he is a significant... I guess you could say a significant... No, I don't want to say a toy, but like a significant aspect in John Kramer's life. That's how I would see it. But with him passing, I can understand why they didn't want to use him as much. And for them to dig up, that's how they made it seem, right? They kind of get you hooked where they say, "Oh, well, they digged up his grave. What the hell were you guys thinking? Like, we get that you want this franchise to live on," and there are a lot of people obsessed with the way, let's be honest, the fans are obsessed with how they would change the traps a little bit and then how they would get out. So I can understand the obsession, I can understand the illusion. So clearly the writers and creators and directors are paying attention. Clearly. So for those of you who are like, oh, nobody watches our videos or nobody watches my content, clearly they're paying attention. Especially if you go through all of these movies piece by piece and you've read through and listened to, for me, listen to all of the fans and their complaints and their critiques and their obsessions and, you know, their spiraling, so to speak, as far as them ruminating and festering as far as how they would make this easier to get through or how they would break out of the trap. So for me, while it was rushed, it's still, you know, it's a good go-to if you want like a quick starter of, you know, Saw and what the history is and what the obsession is and what goes and entails of being someone that is consumed by this, you know. Saw 4, number 8. Now, considering the sexual trauma and the sexual violence in this one, a lot of you guys would have thought that for me this would be number 10, right? Because this one is hard. I'm gonna be fair. I can't get through this. It's hard for me to get through this particular Saw movie because of the pedophile that is the character that is the test subject, and they unfortunately they show what he did, and I can't listen. You know, I'm kind of glad to be fair. I am so glad that I'm blind in this aspect where I didn't have to see the gruesomeness of it all, but listening to the screams and the cries and the pleading, I can't go through that. I can't do it. And I know for a lot of people, mostly men, okay, and this is just in your guys' brain, it is what it is, but for a lot of men, they prefer to hear a woman scream, let alone a child. So I'll just leave it at that, okay? But while I did appreciate the level of intensity that Saw 4 gets into, because the level of intensity of you can't save everybody, you can only save yourself, and then for the cop to see a pedophile, as much as he couldn't listen to the trap of what this man had to endure. The name of the trap is called Feel What I Feel. And his choice was, do you let him suffer for what he has done because of what this child will forever have to endure, right? Make no mistake. Anyone that has gone through CSA, especially if you are able to survive it and you are still alive, it takes a lifetime to heal. So you will forever have to deal with this, especially once you have kids of your own. I was glad that out of all the people that he needs to feel like he needs to save, I am so glad that he wasn't an enabler, that he wasn't someone that enabled the shit out of pedophiles. Because let's be honest, there are a lot of you guys that do. Okay, a lot of you guys do, and that's why they feel like they can get away with it, right? That they can just do whatever they want. That's how this shit goes. So while I do appreciate the intensity in that aspect where let this man get this justification, because this child will never be able to break free from that. Let's be honest. Even as an adult, there's no going back. There's no quote unquote getting over it, as a lot of you guys love to say, which I want to smack the shit out of you when people say that. Just saying. But between the needle, the two couples and the needle, beyond gruesome. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, I'm very, even though I'm blind, I'm very visual, because obviously I wasn't born blind. So that's never going to change as far as being a visual learner for myself. So I can just literally picture right now the needles going through. The couple is stuck together and the needles are literally going through. And they have to either sacrifice themselves, or either way, it's a no-win. Either way. Especially with the guy that can't figure out what he wants to do as far as the cop goes and the main character. There are a lot of gruesome, like I said, the level of intensity, they amp this shit up. So just when you thought, okay, the first three, there's no way, how are you going to top this? They get you. They always, like, just don't even worry about all that. Like, if you're gonna watch all 10 of these, just know that it literally amplifies each time. So just be prepared if you've never seen these. So that's the main reason why I can't, I just, there's no way that I can get through that. A lot of the time, I just skip it. I don't even watch it, because it's like, what's the point? Like, seriously, I don't know where I'm at. And even if I'm in a good state, why put myself back? You know what I mean? Why put myself backwards when I don't need to? You guys are going to be like, why? Saw 3. It's not about the fact that I'm not a parent. It's not about the fact that this one's hard, on so many levels, between the main character wanting vengeance for his own child and then realizing in the end what was really going on, I'll give them this. I was impressed with the traps. The traps in Saw 3 are very impressive. Very, very impressive. Like, I did not expect this out of the third installment. I just didn't. So there are a lot of fan favorites when it comes to Saw 3 as far as the traps go. So that's why a lot of people are like, wait a minute, why are you labeling the entire movie? Because of the plot and because of the simple fact that I do not believe in vengeance. I know a lot of you guys, I've heard it all throughout content creation. You pick a platform, I've heard it all, where those of you who fully and wholeheartedly believe in vengeance and believe in an eye for an eye, however you want to place that, you look at people like myself as idiots, right? We're stupid in you guys, as far as like in your lens of the way you see things. I really don't care as far as your guys' depiction, as far as your guys' where does it really get you? In the end, where does vengeance really get you? Whether you murder someone who did you wrong, because, eye for an eye, right? That's what y'all believe in. Or you basically do the same thing that they did to you, or worse, right? That's what that means. That's full-fledged what that means. And I just believe in, now make no mistake, I'm not religious, okay? I know that's hard for a lot of you guys to believe, but I just believe in giving that to God. That's his job. Let him do his job. That's not for me to do. I have a purpose to do X, Y, and Z, so let him do his job. So that's fully why I don't believe in vengeance. But to me, it playing fire with fire. Like, let's be honest. Look at our world right now. For people that are playing fire with fire, is it really getting anywhere? No, it's just causing more destruction, and it causes you to never be satisfied at the end of the day. It's just one of those psychological things that people can't really wrap their head around until it's too late. And then even after it's too late, they feel justified in their insane behavior. They're two wrongs don't make a right, okay? I know that, again, a lot of you guys have your convictions, have your feelings. Y'all can have whatever you want, but you clicked on this video, so durable. You know, that's a lot of your guys' words, not mine. There is no such thing as a cure. There is only managing your illness, okay? I know a lot of you guys believe in the medical model rather than the social model when it comes to someone like myself that is either chronic or disabled. Okay? For those of you that are able-bodied, a lot of y'all take advantage of your own health. A lot of y'all take advantage of life in general. Okay? I know that seems harsh. Try not to get offended. It is what it is. And if it doesn't apply to you, don't comment. So, well, I can understand why a lot of people felt like they were being wronged, in the sense that a lot of these people were quote unquote victims, right? But again, they did not take care of their health. They didn't take care of themselves. Therefore, didn't appreciate life. Okay? I did see a lot of fans basically say that. Oh, well, what did this person do? This person just smoked their whole life. Or what did this person do? They didn't do anything. They didn't appreciate life. They're not getting the whole synopsis of the entire series. Again, people miss the mark. It is what it is. But for them to get the family themselves to get their vengeance was quite interesting. Again, while y'all know that I don't believe in that, I just thought it was interesting that, you know, the mother and the son were split, you know, so to speak. And a lot of people are like this, even within their own families, of what their beliefs are and what their morals are, and what's right and what's quote unquote wrong, right? And the level of intensity as far as traps goes, it was a lot. It truly was a lot, as far as them trying to make you see that there is a way to, I mean, if you're already sick and you're already dealing with that, or you're mentally disturbed and sick in the head, it's a lot of back and forth when it comes to this, you know. It's a lot of push-pull of the blind leading the blind, so to speak, as far as mental illness versus, you know, physically sick. So I just thought it was interesting that in the end the individual just doesn't win, because it, like, again, you guys have to watch all the movies to see why. You guys would have to watch every single one to understand why the main character doesn't win in the end. They all tie together. They all go, like, it all unravels on purpose. It's kind of the whole point of these stories. Saw 5. The level of traps I wouldn't be able to do. As far as... Again, I'll get into that later. But as far as, like, trying to work together and it's every man for himself, literally, Hunger Games in this one. And it's really no different if you think about it. There isn't a level of difference between Jigsaw and Saw 5. I just didn't appreciate the laziness, obviously. But I did like the fact that all 5 of these individuals, there was a reason they were all tied together. There was, like, it made no sense at first, but then as you listen to their stories and actually heard them being vulnerable and open up, which, let's be honest, most of society doesn't do. And they just literally unraveled, because when it comes to a matter of life and death, you're either going to crack under pressure or you're going to thrive, and most people can't. Number 4, Saw 3D or Saw 7. Now, this is very... I love rewatching this, even though I can't watch it in 3D, because I was actually one of the ones who went to go see it in 3D with a few of my friends, and the reminiscence of Chester Bennington and a lot of my friends knew that I was the biggest Linkin Park fan, okay? And although I've never been able to go to their concerts, back in the day when I was good with Instagram, I was able to be followed by a lot of my favorite rock bands, including Linkin Park. Now, yes, this was after his death, but hey, a follow is a follow, right? And the level of... It's for me, it's bittersweet, and for a lot of fans, it's bittersweet as far as his cameo and him being a part of the traps, and me fully being into it because I was rooting for him in the trap that he was in, and I was like fake crying, I guess you could say, that after the movie was over. It's like they're like, "What's wrong?" And like, he didn't make it. Like, I just yeah, what can you do? But that aspect, a lot of, like, before I even heard about it, a lot of my friends sent me a video, and it was him talking about him being in the movie and him being a fan, and, you know, he had always wanted to do something like that. So I was excited to go see that in 3D. Now, mind you, back in 2010, I had better vision. Obviously. I was wearing glasses at the time and had a pretty good amount of eyesight that, you know, I was able to look at 3D. And now, mind you, a lot of people did complain. A lot of fans did complain about the rush of, like, let's be fair, to 2010, there was a lot of 3D movies. There was Titanic in 3D. There was Jackass 3D. There was a lot of shit that came out in 3D, so it was just like a whole craze, I guess you could say. And for Saw to be one of those installments, a lot of people were saying that when the blood would splatter, yes, this did happen. When the blood would splatter on you when you were doing it in 3D and watching everything in 3D, and you're literally, it's like virtual reality because you're immersed inside of the trap, so to speak. And for the blood to splatter on you, when you looked at it on your skin, it was pink, it wasn't red. So they felt like that there was a laziness there. But let's be honest, like, I know that a lot of y'all want to act like the industry is quote unquote 10 years ahead. They're not going to waste it on movies, okay? They're just not. They're not going to waste it on that type of technology. So while I did it, the intensity makes it worse when you have the glasses on. So when I rewatch it, I remember which parts I was literally jumping because it was on you, or the traps were like literally face to face, or it felt like, yes, you were in the trap and you had to make a choice. Like, that's the level of intensity we were at. And I wish I could remember what year it was, but there were a lot of movies where they were VR, and you had to get out of the game. Like, it felt like a game, but it was actually the movie, and you had to see if you had it in you to get out. They know they did this with Insidious. They did this with Hostile. I forget what other movie they did besides Hostile. But a lot of people did this, and they said that they were, like, psychologically they weren't the same after that. Like, they said, don't do this. If you're someone who deals with a lot of, like, psychological problems, don't go do that. Don't do VR because it's gonna mess you up in the head. As far as nightmares, as far as, like, being fearful and stuff like that. But if you're watching movies like Insidious and Hostile, but you decide to go do a VR and be in the movie, so to speak, you gotta think on that one. But the public trap is what ensued a lot of people. And then, you know, a lot of different bases as far as, like, the main character lying about being part of the traps, and he did a quote unquote support group, and then he basically ultimately faces his fate. Can he really survive a trap? And turns out he can't. Number 3 is going to be Saw 2. Now, I had a hard time, I'm not gonna lie, I had a hard time switching between these two, because Saw 2 for a long time was my favorite. It's what I always go back to, and actually seeing Tobin Bell as the character of John Kramer, quote unquote Jigsaw, but that wasn't the name he gave himself, that was the name that they gave him. You know? And Saw 2 was the level of should I just get through these addictions? Should I just recover and not stay sick for so long? And it really got me to think, and it got those of my friends that were addicts severely to sit there and think, are we just wasting time? Are we just wasting our lives with this shit? Yes, we went through a lot as kids, but we're not kids anymore. We gotta fucking get our shit together. And mind you, we were in our early, well, for me, it was late teens and early 20s when the first 3 installments came out. But for me, it was, let's figure this out. let's figure out what's really there, what's the underlying issue, and see how I can unravel everything and figure everything out. So I think that's why it's close to my heart that way as far as Saw 2, because that was, when the wheels turned as far as being, as far as, the many contemplations of recovery and actually putting that into place and putting that into action. And for a lot of you guys, that's like mind-blowing, and like the two and two don't go together. But if you look at these movies from a psychological standpoint, and a lot of them are addicts, that they're not all just bad people or criminals, or not all of them are. The majority are addicts. And it's a level of, are you going to get your shit together, or are you just going to waste your life until you die? That's, how blunt this movie is. So I'm glad that I started, looking at that from my own standpoint and realizing that at a young age, especially with how severe my addictions were, and had that level of apathy where I just did not care about my life anymore. For a lot of you guys, this would be number one, the original Saw. The anticipation, the anxiety with this movie. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like it when kids are depicted in horror movies. It makes it more intensified. It makes it more gruesome. It makes it more... Again, can't listen to the screams. I just can't. I'm just not one of those people. I'm sorry. But it was, for its time, for its time, the way that it was cinematically portrayed, the nuance of it all, because it was one of a kind. You didn't see movies like this as far as like a horror franchise. While it's a psychological thriller, it's considered a survival game. It's the first of its kind. So a lot of people were drawn to this. I didn't even know about this movie until, back in the day when we had Netflix. It was rent to own. You would select the DVDs and it would come to your house. So Saw was one of those. I saw it with my sibling, and we not only talked about it from the psychological aspect and what we both got from it through our different lenses, and then being older, like, it really was interesting seeing from each person's perspective. And then when I went to school, when I went to the blind school, I had a lot of friends that were into this movie as well, and that's where I saw the second installment. That's where I watched Saw 2. We all saw it together, and I'd say the majority of us were visually impaired, not, blind or legally blind, or and for me, I was always someone who is very descriptive anyways, so I was able to help my friends who were totally blind of what was going on, and just like basically be their audio description, so to speak. So it was interesting getting their perception on it as well. And I remember to go back to Saw 2, but I remember one of my friends was screaming because she's yelled that Billy was a clown. I said, well, she's like, it's a clown. And she's like, I'm afraid of clowns. And I'm like, 1, his name is Billy. 2, it's a puppet. Like, get it together. He can't hurt you. But I think that a lot of people just were hooked and drawn as far as how the photography of it all, as far as how it was placed, and it was basically one camera type of deal, you know. It just wasn't, it was like a singular camera type of movie. It wasn't there wasn't multiple things going on compared to Saw 2, you know. And as you go, like I said, as you progress, it intensifies. They amplify everything, because coming from the first movie, the question you have at the end is, where do they go from here? How is it possible that there's 10 movies? And speaking of, so number 1 on my list, again, controversial for a lot of y'all, because it was very rare that I saw this as number 1. But to me, Saw 10 was a chef's kiss, because not only do you see why John Kramer becomes the way he comes, and me being terminal, me being fatal, him having a terminal cancer that he couldn't come back from, right? It was too late. And for them to toy with him, for them to fuck with him, that is the most evil thing you can do to somebody. To give them a glimpse of hope and then just fucking burn them to the ground, so to speak, right? I was really impressed with a lot of these traps. Extremely impressed. I was blown away, to be honest with you, with how intensified these traps were. And when I discussed it with a lot of people that I convinced to go watch this movie, now mind you, fans watched this 6-7 fucking times. Okay, they watched this 6 to 7 times. And I ultimately bought it on digital, thanks to audio description. That's why I buy, the majority of why I buy digital is because of audio description. So thank you guys for that. Because, you know, Lionsgate doesn't have to do that. Twisted Pictures doesn't have to do that. You guys choose to. So again, thank you. I'm going to be honest, me having a lot worse visions when this movie started, so from 1 all the way to 10, I never thought that I would lose most of my vision 20 years later. I don't know. I don't know what I thought, okay? And to go to the movies and listen to the audio version, it was fucking cool for me. Like, I just, these movies are already intensified, so imagine the audio description of each trap, each splatter, each gush, each, like, literally descripted down to the T, okay? It was fucking cool. Said, you know, I didn't have to rely on my eyesight. And the fact that it was, you know, it hit home as far as being terminal and how do you want to spend the rest of your life and what do you want to make of it? What do you want to do with it? And mind you, they told me 6 years ago that I only had 3 months left, and I'm still here 6 years later. Not many people get that. You know, not very many people get that. Now, mind you, I'm getting sicker by the year, and things are getting tougher. Not gonna sugarcoat that. But I truly enjoyed, him getting where he got his ideas, where he got this unraveling of ideas, that like him, involving Amanda, and him, I mean, to me it's not vengeance, it's karma, because a lot of people don't understand that either. Sometimes God gives you the lightning bolt. Sometimes God will give you the grant to give you the karma back to whoever needed it. If you're patient enough, God will give that to you. So for me, I felt like it wasn't vengeance to toy with somebody who only had 4 months to live, especially with a fucking brain tumor, a very rare brain tumor at that. To toy with somebody like that, to give them a glimpse of hope. Oh, we'll be able to do this, we'll be able to do that. A lot of people want that. People in my position want that. People in my position are defeated. It's very rare I talk to someone that has my condition, that's very uplifted, very motivated, like myself. Everybody's defeated. Like, it's very rare to find someone that's enjoying their life while they can, including me being deafblind, like the RP, with the retinitis pigmentosa. A lot of people want that quote-unquote cure. A lot of people will spend 20 to 100 grand, go to a different country. These countries will do the exact same thing. So people with retinitis pigmentosa, so people with Ehlers-Danlos, so people with, mind you, I'm going through my conditions. People that are deaf. Okay? There are shady people. There are evil people. And yes, I think I'm valid enough to say that, where you will take someone who's already sick, already chronically ill, okay? Wasted all that money, all that time being hopeful, when all you really have to tell these people is just prepare. You don't know what's to come. You don't know if you're fully going to go blind. You don't know if so you're anticipating and you're anxious, but you don't know. Again, I come from a different place when it comes to my illness and when it comes to my ailments. I obviously come from a different place, and I know a lot of you guys are just like stunned, probably, if you're new here. But I was never ashamed of it. I still took life head on. I never let it stop me. I never let any of this. I still don't. Even with the other Ehlers-Danlos, as harder as everything is getting, not letting it stop me, So for him to have a different sense of a purpose, he only had 4 months left, and for him to do all of that, prior to his death, if you do it in chronological order, because obviously it goes back, it just felt like the icing on the cake. It just felt like that's how a 10th movie should have been portrayed, So yeah, so that is my top 10 as far as the Saw franchise, obviously, as the new ones are yet to come. Maybe that'll change, maybe it won't, we'll see. Hopefully guys, you watched my top movies, and I hope the Saw traps will make a little more sense as far as how I did these. So from 1 to 10 will be, obviously a lot of these are my favorite, but I figure I'd go from 1 to 10, so do the opposite of what I did in the last video. So hopefully if you guys have caught up, if not, feel free to check that one out and then come back here, okay? All right, number 1, brain surgery. This came out of Saw 10. So for me, this was a brutal one. You know, as you guys know, I, was born with brain damage. I was gonna be literally wanting to crawl out of my seat. Like, I was really anxious and jittery when I was listening to not only the audio description, and from what I could see watching the movie itself in the theater, it's still brutal to listen to. It's still brutal to watch, having to literally cut out a piece of your brain. I don't know where John Kramer gets his logic. I mean, I understand that the body does heal and replenish itself eventually. A lot of herbalists and a lot of individuals that are outside of doctors and our alternative medicine do say the same thing, but as far as cutting out your own brain, yeah, I there's no way I could do this. So obviously I put it at number 1 for the level of intensity. This is nail biting. Like, to be fair, this is nail biting. I was anxious the entire time. I was like, how the hell is this guy? Like, is he going to be able to do it? He was able to drill in. He was able to obviously take out more than what he was supposed to. And to, like, listen to all of the effects and what the actual brain sounds like when you take it out, and what organs sound like it is to the T. That's how it sounds. It was a lot. It was a lot, and obviously a dude didn't make it. Obviously, like, it's just, again, there's no winning in these traps. I don't know why people just assume that there's a way out, There is for some people in movies. Again, if you've never seen these, you're gonna have to watch. If you so dare to. But I feel like, a lot of people just put too much emphasis on that. We know what's to come. We know what these movies are. We know what's to come. So why complain? Why add that as a complaint? So for me, there's no way. Between intensity, nail biting, anxiety, there's no way I can drill into my body. I'm sorry. There's no way. It's not possible. The bathroom trap. And for those of you who are like, wait, what? That's what the trap is called between Adam and Dr. Gordon in the original Saw. Okay? Them being trapped with the chainsaws and having to literally saw through themselves to get out. Honestly, I don't think I would be able to have someone there antagonizing me and trying to act like they knew better, and then having to sit there and contemplate, do I want to get out of this, or do I just want to sit there and rot? Because at the end of the day, they're gonna die anyways. Like, again, there's no getting out of these because of, again, everything intertwines. Everything happens for a reason in these movies because of the level of what Kramer's purpose is, and each people he picks has a reason. So, even if he's not doing the game himself, even though he's not the player, not the antagonist, at the end of the day, it all stems from him. This is all his idea. So, for me, that aspect of being annoyed, I honestly don't think I would make it out. I honestly, even if I were to cut through and get out and be an amputee, because my blood doesn't clot, I don't think I would survive. To be fair, now that I think about it. Yeah, I don't think it would work out. Hangman. Now, obviously, we know what this entails. And this, I obviously I can't. I can't get through this one. I guess you could say I don't know, because I would be able to get through the blindfold part, obviously. Like, I walk around in the dark when the light's out. I don't really particularly use light that much because of how sensitive my eyes are. But obviously I would be able to get through that. And me being light and me being able to run fast, even though it's high above and these boards are really small, but I feel like I would be able to get through that part. It's just the opposite. Like, the main character was screaming at this individual. The main character is just like literally yelling at this person and being like, hurry the fuck up, calling him all kinds of, like, you're not helping, bro. Like, you're supposed to help him. Like, I honestly would have done it myself. I would have figured it out by myself. But between him screaming, there's no way. There's no way. I have to focus, and dude has to shut up in order for me to focus and do what I gotta do. And for me, being deafblind, it's a little more focused than that. And yeah, there's no way I would have survived it. You know, less pain is possible, and being burned alive, that is the ooh. Number 4's trap is furnace. So this is Saw 3, and there's no way. There's absolutely no way that I would be able to. And in logistics speak, you crawled through to get, and me being a lot smaller than this character that went in, he didn't have to scoot that far to get to the antidote. And when you pull the antidote, the door was meant to close. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's, by the time I got to the front, I can guarantee by the time I got to the front, that as short as I am, that thing would have. Number 5, 10 pints of blood. Obviously, Saw 5, the final test, final choice, final trap, so to speak, until the very, very end of the movie. yeah, putting your hand in that machine until you're drained, I wouldn't make it out. There's no way. Like I would, obviously fill up more than 10 pints, and it being me not clotting. I wouldn't even need to put my arm in there long enough. Like I wouldn't need to have to put it in the duration that they had to, considering my condition. That I would have been gone first. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way I could possibly get through that intensity, the level of sharpness, obviously, because the minute that they put their hand in, they don't even put fully their arm in, and it's just all you see is gushing. That's really there's just gushing, splattering. There's no way out of it, and again, a lot of these are nail biting, it's just what's truly more intensified for you. Like, everyone's different, you know what I'm saying? Nerve gas, Saw 3. The entire house that they were trapped in Saw 2 was filled with basically a chemical that once you inhale it, it's eating out your insides throughout. That's how a lot of these people were getting, like, as you saw through the movie, like, they were getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and they started coughing out blood because whatever the fumes of the nerve gas they're inhaling, that there's the destruction on the body, and my body is already deteriorating from the inside out. So that's basically what that's basically what this is. So, but it's chemically induced of them inhaling it, and I'm trying to remember how long it takes everybody to be in that house. Was it several hours, or wasn't it? They didn't make it that long. I know that one of the girls, she plays what's her name in that show? Lucy Camden, so Beverly Mitchell, from Seventh Heaven. She obviously played in other shows that I can't remember for the life of me. That's probably how I would go out. I would probably have a seizure or convulsion. Because you don't know how your brain's gonna, you don't know how your body's gonna be affected by that. You truly don't. And depending on your, how compromised you are and how sick you are, with underlying conditions that, obviously nobody talks about. But I think that's how I would go out, is how she went out, Everyone else went through the traps. Like, for most of the people that were in the house of Saw 2, a lot of people unfortunately endured the traps, and that's how they passed. But for her, it was due to the nerve gas. I think that would be, to be literally honest, I think that would be more my fate, of having either a seizure or a convulsion. In public execution. Oof. Well, to be fair, I wouldn't put myself in that position. I'm not a woman that does that. I don't believe in doing that, And mind you, there are a lot of men that will trick you and lie to you and say that they're broken up or they're separated or whatever, and then you end up finding out that they lied to you. So it's still, I don't know, having to be literally sawed in half. There's no way out of that one. Because even if you talk your way through these men, like, you've literally screwed over both of these guys. You try to manipulate both of them, and it doesn't work. The fate isn't in your hands, it's in theirs. There's no way out of this one. It's just a matter of how quick does that blade go through you. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way. There's just really no way that I would be able to talk me out of the way. She did try to talk her way out of that one, but there's no way. Because in the end, the men both felt like they were being played. Again, out of saw 10, pipe bomb. So having 2 bombs strapped to your wrist, and then, the only way to get them out is through a gory way. It has to go through your skin, obviously. And it's either you get through the pain, which he does. He's able to get through it. You either get through the pain and just rip it out from your skin, because it's literally embedded in your skin. Like, it's not like the top of your skin, like the top layer, it's in the flesh. I don't know how they did that, but it's in the flesh. It's either endure that or let them explode. Those are your 2 choices. For me, I would have to, now granted, John Kramer was there. He would have to, I would have to seek medical help right away. Are they really going to help you? You know what I'm saying? There's no telling. Not necessarily. And he didn't really help him. He said he was going to help him. But he's like, oh, you'll get through it. You live another day. Congratulations on appreciating life. It didn't really help him. And for me, I obviously would bleed out. So that's an I don't know for me. Because both circumstances, it's a no. Death mask. So this is in the beginning. Okay, this is the beginning of so to have to claw out a key, not necessarily in your eye, but it's like the under eye. That's where the key was. And me being small, the key would literally cover half my face. So it would be a lot of digging through to get through the entire, because you have to outline to get through the entire thing, if you catch my drift. And you gotta be quick. A lot of these traps are under a minute. A lot of these are under a minute. You gotta hurry up and make a choice, or that thing will collapse and you're done. And that's basically what happened to him. He panicked and freaked out, and like most people would, Honestly, for me though, I would have yanked it out regardless. Because granted, it's my face and it's not, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna bleed out, but it's not gonna be like compared to the rest of your body. And granted, your face is more sensitive, but who's to say? But for me, I would just rip it out. The reverse bear trap. So this is used quite a bit in the entire franchise. Okay, and this for a lot of you guys was your favorite. This was a fan favorite because it's easy to get out of. You know, it's well, I mean, this is in the fate of your hands. And in the original Saw, Amanda had to hurt someone else to get the key, and she was ultimately able to get the key out. In Saw 7, actually it was 2 different times. But it was Detective Hoffman. Obviously, he was able to break through. But it's interesting that John Kramer's ex was the only one that didn't survive it. Now that I think about it. But obviously, the Detective Hoffman's more so of a killer than a teacher. That's how they want to place it. That's how you're supposed to see John Kramer. You're supposed to see him as a teacher, not a serial killer. And in more so, Detective Hoffman was more so about revenge and just got addicted to killing people. Let's just call it what it is, okay? Obviously for me being able to have a strong sense of touch, I'd be able to feel through the key really fast and get that out. If I'm angry enough and I'm strapped down the way Hoffman was, I'd be able to get through that. As far as the trap that Amanda was in, I honestly don't know if I would sacrifice another life to be selfish enough to keep my own. I'm just being honest. I'm not that selfish. I'm more so the opposite. I'd rather sacrifice myself for someone else than. I know that the second half wasn't easy to get through, so I apologize if I'm really graphic, but kind of part of me, I'm very descriptive, unfortunately. So if you got through the second half, thank you, for being here at the end. I appreciate you. I know that a lot of people weren't really descriptive. They were more so visual. They were able to show more so the traps than they actually talked about it. They prefer the copyright claim. I don't have time to deal with all that, to be honest with you. So I prefer to be descriptive. So if I get in trouble, I get in trouble. I can always put this on my Patreon if it's too much of a problem for YT. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you were able to get through, thanks for being here, and let me know in the comments what you guys thought as far as all of my descriptions, my top 10s on both ends, and what your guys' favorite, or if you are someone yourself that cannot get through any of these movies. It is what it is, Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you guys so much. Bye.